Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Tuesday?
Doing great. Looking forward to some very good four topics that we have for our fans tonight, and can't wait to get into it.
We got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. We got some NFL news. We got some surprising honesty from an NFL owner, which we're going to get into right away, but also some baseball talk. We have to talk about this because there's some historical things happening with your favorite team, the Boston Red Sox. We'll get into that. But let's begin with our first topic of tonight's show. Let's dive right into it with...
Okay, we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson. And while speaking with reporters on Monday, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam admitted that the Deshaun Watson train was a whiff, saying, "We took a big swing and miss with Deshaun. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't. And we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him, so we got to dig ourselves out of that hole." He didn't mention all the money he spent on him either. $230 million guaranteed. Is the Deshaun Watson trade the worst in NFL history?
I'm going to go with yes, because it's more than just on the field. It's also off the field. If we could talk about the historical bad trades, like the Herschel Walker trade, where that was just that defined terrible trades. The Ricky Williams trade was also an abomination. Trey Lance was a complete bust initially. Only played in really 4 starts. He got traded 3 first-round picks. The 49ers traded up to go and get him. And then the Russell Wilson trade, but that was bad because that was just poor financial decisions. Before he even takes one singular snap, you sign him to a 5-year deal. But Deshaun Watson, it was a little bit different because there was the sexual misconduct off the field. There was decreasingly poor play and the fact that he didn't even play the season before you made this move. And on top of it, you alienated your star quarterback who you picked first overall in Baker Mayfield, who played through an injury that prior year, and you thought, let's not move forward with them anymore, for whatever reason. And now he's putting up several back-to-back 4,000-plus yard seasons and making the Buccaneers a serial playoff team, which is, again, what are the Browns doing now? They're stuck with this guy, Deshaun Watson. So I think, yes, it is the worst trade in NFL history because let's talk about on the field first. His play has been terrible, so much so that over the cap, if we talk about just on-field production, over the cap rates his salary at $5.5 million per year. Daniel Jones makes more than that. Anthony Richardson is making more than that. Like, bad quarterbacks are making much more money than Deshaun Watson is based on his on-the-field value. He has an under 60% completion percentage with the Browns back in 2022 when he first got there. Under 60% completion percentage, a QBR for a scale of 0 to 100 of 21.5, which is dead last in the NFL. His EPA per play, DVOA, and DYAR are all bottom 5 in modern NFL history. So since the merger, it's been bottom 5, each of those stats, bottom 5 in that entire time frame. And then in 2024, with Deshaun Watson, the Browns were dead last in offensive efficiency. So yeah, no, this is bad. I do appreciate, though, Jimmy Haslam saying, we completely missed. We took a shot, we whiffed, and we went down swinging. Because guess what? That's exactly what this trade is. And we don't see owners or general managers or head coaches say that they screwed up on a play call. They screwed up on a particular move in free agency. Like, you're not going to see Joe Shane talk about how bad the extension for Daniel Jones was. You're never going to hear him say that. But the fact that Jimmy Haslam's coming out and saying, you know what? Yeah, we missed on that one. Now, here's the issue, though. Here's the big issue. They're stuck with him. So they could rip on him all he wants. Deshaun Watson, he could try to force his way out. It isn't going to happen. Because if they decide to release him right now, it's a $170 million cap hit. And even at the end of his contract, it doesn't matter. Because next year, he's a free agent for the 27 season. His cap hit is still worth $125 million. So right now, the Browns are completely stuck with him. Now, obviously, a post-June 1st release or a post-June 1st trade will alleviate the initial dead cap hit for that first year. But it doesn't matter. You're still going to be absolutely rocked by the fact that you gave Deshaun Watson the most guaranteed money in NFL history up until right before week 1, when Dak Prescott signed one for $231 million guaranteed. So this is utterly ridiculous because his poor play, he sat out the prior year before you traded for him. You gave up a bunch of draft picks. Let's actually bring it up because I meant to do this. This is what you gave up for Deshaun Watson. You acquired him and a 6th-round pick for 3 firsts, 2 fourths, and 1 third-round pick. And I'll get into what those picks actually became. But that's what the Texans got for Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, I am calling this the worst trade in NFL history.
Yeah, well, they say that acceptance is the first step towards healing. Maybe for the Brown fans, the healing process can officially begin now that Jimmy Haslam has stepped up and said, you know what, I blew it. I made a big swing and whiffed. Over 3 years removed from the Browns pulling off a blockbuster trade for quarterback Deshaun Watson, owner Jimmy Haslam is accepting that the big swing hasn't gone according to plan. Many Browns fans will surely hold him accountable and responsible for the bad deal that guaranteed Watson $230 million, and that was what was necessary, Haslam thought, to push the deal through in 2022, along with all those draft picks that you saw. 3 first-round picks. Wow. The Browns are handicapped because of the deal 3 years ago. Significant draft capital was lost in the move, and because of Watson's Achilles injury that will keep him sidelined for most of 2025, maybe all of 2025, $170 million of Watson's contract is yet to be accounted for in the salary cap. You mentioned that. As a result, Haslam is trying to show patience when it comes to getting the team back on track and may impact what Cleveland does with the number 2 pick in the draft. And this, to me, is defines the Browns as not knowing what they're doing and have not known what they were doing for quite a many years. Haslam said, I think the message is if the right person's there, we're going to take him. And he's talking about the draft. Well, don't you know who the right person is right now? Don't you know? I mean, you don't know?
So here's my question to you. Who do you think is the best
quarterback, for sure.
Right,
you got to take a quarterback. Either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that are going to be available. And he's got to take one of those 2. And the fact that they're not saying it yet, it just astounds me. I don't get it. If not, we'll figure it out, he said, for a year or 2 until we get the right person. Well, don't they know who the right person is? A quarterback. The quarterback is the most important player on the team. Handles the ball on every play. It makes the decisions that either get you down the field to score a touchdown or turn the ball over or whatever. Okay? The quarterback's the most important guy. We need good football players, he says. That's a deep thought.
Brilliant observation.
That's deep. There's good players in this draft. All right. And we got to make sure we get the right ones for us. Okay, well, I'm all for that. I would say it's either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders for you. The Watson situation has made quarterback the Browns' most obvious need and one that could change the future of the franchise in a hurry, you know? Well, at least the fans would have something exciting to watch instead of quarterbacks out there turning the ball over and making all kinds of mistakes and playing poorly. The results so far, the Browns are destitute and their image tarnished. Watson's repeatedly injured, and the Texans are AFC contenders. That's been the result so far. Watson was suspended the first 11 games of in his Cleveland career, and that should have been due to the sexual assault charges. That should have been a huge red flag for them. Against him, and then suffered 2 straight season-ending injuries, and now re-injured the Achilles heel, threatening his most, if not all of his 2025 season. So far, when playing, he's thrown 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That's what he's done in 3 years for the Browns. His contract still has 2 more years to run. His contract has been restructured multiple times, but the Browns are slated to be on the hook for all that money, as you said, if he's gone or they don't do something in terms of trades or something. I don't know who would want to trade for the guy after the June 1st deadline. I 2 things, Nate. I can't believe that they don't know who they want to draft yet. It's got to be a quarterback. It makes the most sense. There's 2 very good quarterbacks, could be franchise quarterbacks available, and they could get one of them. This is the first round draft pick they've had in 3 years because of that trade. Okay, and the other thing I think is, why the hell did he say this? Why did he say this? No, but why did he say it? That Deshaun Watson still has 2 years left on his contract.
What's he gonna do?
But he still has 2 years. He has 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah,
he might have some minimal trade value, maybe some minimal. But now whatever value he had is gone because of Haslam running his mouth.
Well, no, I think that this is great because, like you mentioned in your opening. What is that? The 5 stages of grieving or accept it? You need to accept it. You screw it up. This is a bad move. We're not going to hear Jerry Jones say, hey, I kind of screwed up here. Maybe I should have spent more money in free agency. You know what he says? Well, I think we spent very well. I think we spent enough. I think we made the necessary.
I think Jerry Jones has the right perspective. He's the owner of the team. He's got to exude confidence, optimism, instead of saying, you know what, we totally blew it. This guy is a dud. And we have 2 more years of his contract. Yeah, we still have him.
They're biting the bullet because
we still have him.
He has no value left. They are biting the bullet.
2026, he could be healthy. He's going to be the quarterback in 2026.
But that doesn't mean they'll start him.
Maybe not. I don't know. I think they definitely should draft a quarterback.
Absolutely.
They have to do that.
That's what I agree with you on. In fact,
I think the Giants ought to be praying they draft him too, because those 2 great quarterbacks will be gone when they get to number 3, and then they can go for Hunter. Right,
so I think that they're probably praying on the Browns
they can
being the
say
Browns.
Down the road if either Ward or Sanders is a franchise quarterback, well, it wasn't available to us. We couldn't pick them.
That's an excuse, absolutely.
Yeah, they have the excuse. They need that excuse.
They do,
given all the mistakes they've made.
Well, I want to bring up those draft picks again because this is who these picks turned out to be for the Texans.
Yeah.
Kenyon Green, who fell apart for the Houston Texans at the guard position. Dameon Pierce, he's a serviceable running back. Will Anderson, it's a pretty good pick.
Not bad.
Tank Dell,
not bad.
Pretty good pick. Kamari Lassiter, who's pretty good. And then Cade Stover, a tight end. So they got some very prominent picks for a guy who's played 19 games, is always injured, and led one of the worst offenses in modern NFL history. I mean, that's an absolute steal. And on top of that, the Browns spend $230 million fully guaranteed on him. You can restructure it till 25 years from now.
You wait. The Browns won't take a quarterback.
And that
you wait. They won't do it. And that will be.
We actually talked about that.
Look
not
what
too
they've
long
got.
ago.
Who have they got for? They got Kenny Pickett as their quarterback.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. So it makes sense to
Kirk
bring
Cousins
in the
might
rookie.
Be available at some point.
Bring in the rookie. Bring in a
Exactly.
rookie. Makes the most sense. And start Kenny Pickett for a few games. Let the guy watch, get his legs under him, get the feel for the NFL, and then put him in there. And the fans will love it.
But
at least it'll be good entertainment. They may not win much.
That's true.
But at least it'll be decent entertainment. And that's what he owes that franchise. My God. They've been horrible for a long time. And they've spent incredible amounts of money.
Yeah.
Incredible amounts of money. And given up huge amounts of draft capital.
Yep.
Right? And this is what
the
the result is. They're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And you're saying, well, why is Jimmy Haslam saying this? Deshaun Watson's trade value is basically nothing. He had trade value? That's my. He actually had trade value?
He probably doesn't. But why, when you have him for 2 more years, why would you do that? What does it say to the other players on the team? You know, if I play poorly, well, Jimmy Haslam's going to come up and say, yeah, we made a huge mistake drafting this guy.
I don't
He's
think
horrible.
you can look at a singular
He's horrible.
Cleveland
We
Brown
got him for 3 more years, and we're paying him a huge amount of money, but I admit it. I made a mistake. I think that is the worst thing you could say.
So what are you going to say?
The worst thing you could do.
So you think Jimmy Haslam should say, hey, Deshaun Watson, he's fine.
No, I
He's
think
fine.
here's what I think he should say. Nothing.
So
He should say nothing.
you don't.
Why
think,
should
you
he
don't think
say
people-
anything? He hires a general manager to make those kinds of comments.
He's not gonna
He's
come
the
out and
owner
say
of the
that.
team. He shouldn't get down into the mire like that with an individual player and say things like that. It only hurts his reputation
I don't
and
think
shows
so.
that he
I don't
really
think so.
doesn't have too much on the ball, I think.
Why? Just because he's being honest about a decision that the entire organization made? That's called accountability. I'm guaranteeing you.
I think, you know
a
what?
lot of hold on.
I don't
a lot
mind
of
him.
organizations are looking for accountability. For instance, the New England Patriots, one thing that everybody ripped on Gerard Mayo for was never taking accountability for poor personnel decisions. Everybody was like,
They
Elliott
got
Wolf.
rid of him after 1 year.
Correct.
Yeah, they made the right
Because
decision.
there was no accountability. Jimmy Haslam coming out and saying, you know what? We screwed up. it's finally saying, okay, I guarantee you, Browns fans and NFL fans were wondering, what are the Browns thinking? Do they still believe in Deshaun Watson? Well, this gives us a clear answer. They don't anymore, and they're being honest that this decision was a very poor decision.
Why say what he said? I don't mind him saying that at the end of the contract.
Because people are asking
when
for
he's
answers.
gone. I would say, rather than come out and say that, go draft a quarterback. That tells everybody.
Anyway.
Actions speak louder than words. We don't know what they're going to do. He didn't say they're going to draft a quarterback.
They better draft a quarterback.
No, but they didn't. He didn't say that.
I know.
He doesn't know who they're going to pick.
Because you also think
That's
about
what
this.
he said. Let's go back and see what he said.
No, I know. You said we're not sure moving forward.
I think let's see.
But no, here's my thing. Here's my thing with the Browns. Why don't you think that this could be a power play?
I think the message is, if the right person's there, we're going to take him. He didn't say what position it was.
Right, because why say, oh, yeah, we're going to draft...
The right person could be Abdul Carter.
Correct.
It could be Travis Hunter. It
why
could
would
be
the Browns show their
Shedeur
cards
Sanders.
before the draft?
It could be, who knows who it could be.
No, I can tell you exactly why you don't tell someone who you're drafting 3 weeks out of the draft. Because if you're saying, okay, we're going to draft Shedeur Sanders, someone who wants, like, for instance, the Giants who may want Shedeur Sanders are going to say, okay, so now we're stuck with Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But if you put it in the air, well, we could draft Shedeur Sanders. We could draft Abdul Carter. We could get Travis Hunter. You keep an opening. You say that it shuts the door for Deshaun Watson's trade value. That number 2 pick, all of a sudden, because of the ambiguity, you don't know who they're drafting.
No.
What do you mean, no?
What difference does it make? They have the number 2 pick.
You don't think someone's trying to trade
Either they're
up?
going to get Ward or they're going to get Sanders.
Or Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
No, but if they should take a quarterback. They should say it now.
You're saying they should. I'm saying that if you're the New York Giants...
I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter if they say it now.
You don't think someone's going to try to
They have
trade
the number
two?
2 pick. There's 2 great quarterbacks. They're going to get one of them.
But you're under the
They don't have to
umbrella.
If the Giants say, hey, you know what? You said you're going to take Travis. You're going to take Shedeur Sanders. We don't want you to do that. We want him. We want to trade picks with you.
Exactly my point.
And then the Browns could say, no, we're going to take Sanders.
Correct.
So I don't
but
think
that conversation could happen, though.
They don't risk anything. They don't risk anything by saying they're going to take a quarterback. I don't think. If you're drafting number 2, if you're drafting number 7 or 8, maybe there's some risk there. I don't know. You hold your cards close to your vest. But in this case, I don't think it matters at all.
Of course it matters. Because the Giants are trying to trade up last year for the New England Patriots' 3rd overall pick because the Patriots were never 100% on who they're going to draft.
And the Patriots didn't do it.
Right, but the Giants could at least have that conversation because the Patriots were like, okay, we're definitely going this route.
The Browns don't have to trade. Even if Tennessee, maybe Tennessee will trade.
You're missing my point here. That conversation could at least happen because you don't know who they're going to draft. You don't know. For instance, if the Browns say we're drafting Abdul Carter, that number 3 pick goes up immensely for teams that need a quarterback because Shedeur Sanders is available. But if the Browns like, well, we could. Then you could have a conversation with them saying, hey, we're willing to trade up and give you this in order so we could draft this guy. Are you okay with that? That's why the Giants were able to speak to New England Patriots because the Patriots didn't say, we're going to draft Drake May. We're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. We're going to draft this guy. They didn't say that because why would you? Just like how the Titans have said, well, we believe in Will Levis and we're going to give him every opportunity to succeed. But they're at the number 1 pick and they need a quarterback.
Well, all right, well. They aren't saying who it's going to be, but my advice
is. The Titans are the first overall pick, and they haven't even said who they're picking.
Okay, well, my advice is draft a quarterback, Cleveland.
That's your advice, but in reality, no team is coming out and saying, hey, like the Titans with the number 1 overall pick haven't even said who they're drafting. They've talked about drafting back or trading back. They've talked about drafting Cam Ward. They've talked about they've met with Abdul Carter. They've met with a bunch of these teams because they don't want to play their hand because it doesn't shut down any trade opportunity. If the New York Giants say, hey, we'll give you 3 first-round picks for that number 1 overall pick, the Titans are going to absolutely take that. Screw whoever they're going to draft because that's 3 first-round picks for a team that's obviously overpaying to get that number 1 pick.
Well, that's a mistake to do that. Obviously, the Browns have shown that. They gave up 3 first-round picks.
Right, but that's not for a rookie quarterback that can change a franchise. That was for a guy who sat out
their
the prior
record last
year
was so bad they have the 2nd-round pick. The team that benefited from it, the Texans, won a playoff game last year.
Right, but that wasn't for a rookie quarterback. That was for a quarterback who sat out the prior year. And the Texans looked like they were moving on anyway. So there's a difference there. Deshaun Watson sat out 2021. So the year that the Browns were pursuing him, Baker Mayfield was just coming off an injury where he played through basically the entire season with the injury, and Deshaun Watson didn't play in a singular year. But the year prior, you could argue he was an MVP candidate.
Okay, well, we need to move on to our next topic here, but I will say the Browns are one of the worst run organizations in the league and have been for a long time and will continue to be, in my mind. We'll see. Okay, now topic 2, to baseball. The Red Sox, Rafael Devers, 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts in the first 5 games of the season, which is a major league record. Congratulations, Rafael. Last night against Baltimore Orioles in the home opener, he went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts and an 8-5 loss. How worried should the Red Sox be, Nate, about this situation?
I think very. And I understand it's a 162-game season and whatnot, and people have these slumps and throughout the season. Some of the best players have these slumps and whatnot. But I do think that they should be, if not sounding the alarm, I think that their hand should be hovering over the panic button a little bit, because even before the season started, there was a massive rift between Alex Cora and Rafael Devers, because the Red Sox brought in Alex Bregman, who plays third base and is a significantly better fielder than Rafael Devers is. In fact, for 7 straight seasons, Devers has led the AL in errors from third base. And right now, 141 errors in those last 7 seasons, most in the AL. So he is committing errors left, right, front, and center. So moving him to DH actually made a little bit of sense, because you take out the negative part of his game and you hope to amplify the positive part, which is his hitting ability. That's the only thing Devers has going for him right now. And right now, as it currently stands, he doesn't even have that. And we can talk about the logistics of it and whatnot, but I think that it breaks down to a couple things. The first one would be, he's late on fastballs. His bat speed has plummeted over the past 3 seasons, which is not a great sign. He's been dealing with something, a shoulder injury. Didn't feel great about it, but he says he feels fine. But it could be the shoulder. His bat speed has plummeted. He's early on breaking balls. He's just not seeing them properly. And then he's just overall, his stance has changed entirely. He's much later on his stance. But I want to talk about yesterday's game, which is interesting, against the Baltimore Orioles, where he went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Because if we take a look at the strike zone, his vision of the ball, it's not like he's not seeing the baseball, because he's taken balls when they're balls, and he's fouled off or called strikes or struck out on pitches that were actually strikes. In fact, in this season, he has looked at 48 balls. He's only swung at 5 of them. So he's able to see the baseball perfectly fine. It's not a vision thing. But I do think it's late bat speed, slow bat speed, and he's just not making very good contact with it. He's set MLB records over and over and over again so far this season with the amount of games for strikeouts. I mean, it is terrible. So I do think that Rafael Devers, there is some massive concern here when it comes to the Red Sox, because even before the season started, there was a massive rift between him and Alex Cora. That's an issue. And I think as it currently stands, he's at the number 2 spot. So that already means if the opening batter doesn't get a hit, then that already means you're probably going to be down 2 outs, because Devers right now is a walking out. So I think right now, I think the Red Sox should be massively concerned, because he right now is the Boston Red Sox. And if the current face of your franchise, who it is Rafael Devers, once Bogarts left, Betts got traded, David Ortiz retired, Devers is your guy. And if your guy is completely falling apart, and in fact, it's more than Devers. Tristan Casas, Bregman's not hitting very well. Duran also, he's falling apart as well. You had a bit of an issue with him a couple years ago. I think right now, if your main hitters are not hitting home runs, which Bregman's there for, to hit high and hit it long, Devers can't even see the ball right now, or at least make contact with the ball very well. I think this is a massive concern for the Boston Red Sox moving forward.
Yeah, well, there are slow starts, there are slumps, and then there are whatever Devers is going through. Okay? Devers spent the offseason trying to rebuild the strength in both of his shoulders after dealing with soreness and inflammation throughout 2024. He never played the field in spring training at all and only had 15 plate appearances in spring training. Maybe he's rusty. That could be. Maybe his shoulder's still hurt. I don't know. He's been one of the baseball's best hitters since 2019, 3 30-run homer seasons, 3 100 RBI seasons, and many tons of doubles. He's a great doubles hitter. Game so far, his first game, he's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Second game, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Third, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and a walk and an RBI. Hey, he's got 1 RBI there. In next game, 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts and a walk. Next, 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts and 2 walks in his home opener. So he got on base twice anyway. He's the first player to strike out 10 times in a team's first 3 games of the season. He's got that record. First player to strike out 12 times in a team's first 4 games. He's got that record. His 15 strikeouts in 5 games shatters the old record of 13. So he's got that record as too. He's getting all kinds of records here to start the season. He struck out 11 times in his final 4 games last year. He's the 4th player in history to have multiple strikeouts in 9 straight games. He's one of those 4 was a pitcher. So, he's in pretty bad company there. The Red Sox are 1-4. That's the bigger issue. And it's not just Devers, and maybe Devers is the one that's kind of ruining the karma for the rest of the team, but Duran and Bregman have not hit well. Altogether, the 3 of them are 11 for 62, 177 batting average, and no homers at all. No homers for those top 3 guys. That's pretty bad after 5 games. Devers said he didn't want to be the DH or move to from third base when Bregman was signed. Said the team promised he would be the third baseman when he signed his $331 million extension in 2023. But now we have a different regime. There's a different leadership there. He eventually relented. Bregman's a Gold Glover. You mentioned it. He's a much better third baseman than Devers. Could they have moved Devers to first base, and had Casas be the DH? Maybe. Maybe they'll try that. I don't know. His bat speed, as you say, has dropped dramatically from 72.5 miles per hour to 70.3 miles an hour from last year to this year. And so far and in 2023, it was 73.4. So all 3 years now it's been dropping. Of course, this year so far is only a 5-game sample. His fast swing rates dropped from 34.2 to 27.9 and now 12.2%. That's terrible. But again, it's a small sample. Devers said he feels good. But needs to get used to being the DH. He said that's different for him. Well, I don't know. How different is it? You get off the bench, you get up, and you try to get a hit. I mean, generally, if you're playing the field, you go to the bench first, and then you get up and you try to get a hit. So I don't know why it should be that different. Other DH who started slow, Don Baylor, way back there, was 0 for 20. He wound up 263. 329 on-base percentage and 424 slugging percentage and 24 homers, so it wasn't that bad of a season. Evan Gattis for Houston, he started 0 for 23, wound up with a 246 batting average and 27 homers, so quite a few homers. Matt Olson, he has started out, struck out 25 times in the first 15 games in 2023. He wound up a 317 batting average, 423 on-base percentage, 650 slugging percentage, and 53 homers. So it's a little early, I think. And then you have Stanton in 2018 finished with, he did terrible in the first 15 games. He wound up with 38 homers and 852 on-base percentage. So there's still a lot of time. Baseball's a long season, 6 months long. 162 games. The first 5 have been a disaster for Rafael Devers. Are the Red Sox pretenders again this year? Maybe. They were picked by many to win the American League East because they fortified their pitching. Their hitting looks pretty bad so far, and their pitching not so great either. They lost 8-5 last night. I'd be worried.
Well, you bring up that 2019 season, so let's actually take a look, because since 2019, Devers has actually been one of the most consistent hitters in Major League Baseball. 5th most hits, 2nd most doubles, 8th most home runs, 5th most RBIs, and 2nd most total bases in Major League Baseball. What I also find interesting is that if you take a look at his batting average, well, I believe it's 22nd. You take a look at some of your favorite players, like, for instance, why not throw this name out here? Shohei Ohtani. He has a higher batting average than Shohei Ohtani. He has a higher batting average than Fernando Tatis Jr. He has a higher batting average than some of your favorite players. He has a .001 batting average lower than Bryce Harper. So he's one of the most consistent hitters in Major League Baseball, and this season he comes out and he's ice cold. But it amplifies just how bad he's been, because through 13 games before ending 2024 with a 272, he batted 1.188 through 13 games. So it's not good. It really isn't good. And then we remember that he had a 36-game slump just a season ago, where he had batted 191.
Yeah.
So Devers needs to get his act together because, like I mentioned, he is the Boston Red Sox right now. You could say it's Bregman, but he just got there. Casas, no. Duran, no. Pitchers, no. Because some of them just got there. So right now, Devers is the guy. And if he's batting like this, you need to figure out some sort of solution. Because him batting second and him having a batting average of 0, that's an issue.
That's a big issue.
And among qualified batters, I think there's only 8 guys with a batting average of 0.
Yeah.
And that's out of over 200 batters that are currently qualified. So, yeah, massive issue for the Boston Red Sox. 162-game season. But if your best guy can't find the ball and make solid contact with it, again, I want to bring up the strike zone for yesterday's game against the Baltimore Orioles. It's not like he's completely not seeing the ball because he's swinging at strikes. He's holding up on balls.
He can't catch up to the fastball, and
Correct.
they know it, so they're throwing him fastballs, and he's late on them.
And then he's early on breaking balls.
Yeah.
His batting stance has changed. Yesterday, I saw it on Twitter. Someone from Fox, MLB's Fox station, did a side-by-side of Rafael Devers last year and this year, his swing. He is much later on his swing this year. Could that be he's changed something? Could it be that
changed
he's
his
in
footwork,
pain?
apparently.
Could it be that his shoulder is still bothering him? I'm not sure.
It's pretty bad if his shoulder's bothering the first 5 games of the season.
He's Jay.
Right.
He's $313 million. You want to play through that.
331.
Sorry. Year 2 is not looking good for Devers right now. I would say quick break, but coming up, the Tush Push lives for another day. We're going to talk about that, but the owners, again, can meet up in May and ban it eventually. We're going to talk about that, as well as Shane Steichen, head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, makes his first public comment on the quarterback controversy between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. We'll talk about that right after this break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show.
The Tush Push. NFL owners are set to continue discussions about the Eagles' infamous Tush Push play after tabling a proposal to ban it. The proposal, authored by the Green Bay Packers, received support from 16 teams, but under NFL bylaws, at least 24 votes are needed to make any rule change official. So what do you think is going to happen to the Tush Push, Nate?
Well, I think what's interesting, and I hope it doesn't get banned, because some of the reasoning for banning it is utterly ridiculous. First off, let's talk about Sean McDermott, which I'm going to get into it. He has no right to say anything bad about the Tush Push because he tried and failed. That's called pettiness. That's called, some other teams do it better than us, so we're just going to say, ban it. What I also find interesting is that he made a public comment on it saying, quote, "My biggest concern is the health and safety of the players, first and foremost. It's 2 things. It's force, added force, and then the posture of the players being asked to execute that type of play. That's where my concern comes in. I think being responsible and proactive in that regard is the right way to go." The tush push became a play in 2022 when the Eagles started doing that, and at the time, they were the only team to do it. If we take a look at the history of the tush push and the injuries associated directly from the tush push, there is one injury in the 3 years that it's been used, and that was Week 4 with the New York Giants, when at the time, rookie John Michael Schmitz injured his shoulder and tight end Daniel Bellinger injured his knee. That is the only circumstance, current based on the data, of an injury resulting directly from the tush push. So the fact that the player's health and safety are a potential risk. Well, the Eagles have ran it, over 100 times? The Bills have run it 50 times, and there's been no injuries on either side for them. And I also think it's embarrassing that you were talking about the tush push and Sean McDermott. We have to realize that the Buffalo Bills did that in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They ran it 7 times on and one or goal line situations. They converted 3 out of 7. That's bad. And they don't operate it at the same level that the Philadelphia Eagles do it. And when I brought up the side-by-side or the comparisons between how the Bills run it and how the Eagles do it, one thing is glaring for me. The Eagles have 2 guys pushing Jalen Hurts. The Buffalo Bills have 1 guy who's 200 pounds. Jalen Hurts can squat 600 pounds. Saquon Barkley it also has massive quads. He could squat a lot too. And they also have a tight end also assisting Jalen Hurts. So I think it's utterly ridiculous. There's nothing about player safety. It's a glorified QB sneak. Nobody had an issue with Tom Brady converting as many QB sneaks as he did in his career. It's a glorified QB sneak. Now, one thing that I will say could be adjusted and still have the QB sneak exist in the NFL is if you alter the rules when it comes to pushing players. Because as it currently stands, defensive players can't push other defenders. But offensive players, as the tush push is, you could push offensive players. Now, if you just make sure the defensive players could have the same playing field, well, I'm sure we'll see the tush push numbers decline rapidly. But based on the numbers of before the tush push was a thing, from 2019 to 2021, and from 2022 when the tush push became a thing to modern day, the conversion rate is essentially the same. So it's a glorified QB sneak. That's what it is. And I find it funny how the Packers, who are lobbying to ban the tush push, in the last 3 years, they've had 31 attempts on 4th and 1. Out of those 31 plays, they've converted first down only 55% of the time. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. And you know why they do it? Because only 5 of those plays were QB sneaks. The rest of them have been pass plays, running back runs, non-quarterback and non-running back runs, so like option plays, end arounds and stuff like that, and 1 quarterback read option. They convert 80% on QB sneaks. The other times, it's abysmal. 50% on pass plays, 37.5% on running back runs. Non-quarterback and non-running back runs, they convert 67% of the time, and then a read option, they only called 1 of that 100% of the time.
That's the Eagles?
No, that's the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, the Packers.
So they just call 4th down abysmally, apparently, because they're not calling enough plays of what works the best. And yet they're the ones who put this petition out there for the NFL to ban the tush push. I think it's embarrassing because we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs stop it effectively. So I think it's utterly ridiculous. No, this play should not be banned. It's a glorified QB sneak. You don't hear Tom Brady or Drew Brees. You never complained about them when they ran the QB sneak with insane accuracy. So, no, I think this is utterly stupid. Now, like I said, the only thing I would tweak is maybe make it a slightly more fair playing field and say, you know what, on these tush-push plays, defenders can push other defenders. That's the only thing that I could see potentially being tweaked. But no, this is a glorified QB sneak, and it's not like it's 100% success rate. They only converted it 81% of the time, which is shockingly about league average. So, you should not ban this. Absolutely not.
Well, you point out the Green Bay Packers who brought this proposal up, a little bit sour grapes because they can't convert on 4th down. They make all kinds of mistakes, and they haven't been trying the tush push. Maybe they should go to it. The NFL owners plan to continue the discussions about the Eagles tush push play, and I think that may be the death knell of it because the way they're going to orchestrate the next discussion. I'll get to that in a second. The Packers authorized a proposal which got 16 of the 24 owners' votes. Needed of the 24 that are needed to ban it. A topic's going to be revisited at the meeting on May 20th and 21st. It seemed to target the Eagles for a legal play that has been largely unstoppable over the past 3 years for them. The Packers' proposal prohibit an offensive player from immediately pushing a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receives the snap. Safety doesn't appear to be a valid reason. As you said, there's only been one injury so far. The Bills are the only other team that has used it regularly last season. And, we've had some criticism about the way they do it with having small players there doing the pushing instead of some big hulking guys like the Eagles do. The Eagles and Bills called 65 of the 101 tush pushes in 2024, so obviously they had the majority. McKay, who was the leader of the competition committee, said the league generally frowns on rule changes that target only one or two teams, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The ability to push players was approved back, I can't believe this, it's all the way back to 2005 that they started allowing the pushing. And, I think it's in a way I like it because it gives the offensive linemen something else to think about and get good at, right? They're the ones generally doing the pushing. Packers may modify their proposal now to prevent the ability to push any player, either behind the line of scrimmage or downfield. Green Bay asked to go back and talk about reintroducing the 2004 language, which banned it. Study and understand it, and talk about it again in May. This would expand the discussion beyond the single tush-push play, see if more injuries occurred when you look at the broader scope. Laurie, the owner of the Eagles, who obviously likes the tush-push, said the team has to be ready for every result. But he favors the play because it's shown to be very safe, he says. If it's banned, we'll still try to be the best at short yardage situations, and we have a lot of ideas there. So, they're gonna roll with the punch, whatever it may be, and they're a creative team. They'll come up with something else that will help them get those short yardage first downs and touchdowns. NFL. Let's see. Officer said that the mechanics. The medical officer, the NFL's chief medical officer, said that the mechanics of the play could lead to injuries, but there haven't been any. So I don't think that's such a good argument. The Eagles scored 27 touchdowns and 92 first downs in 3 years using the tush push, 11 TDs and 32 first downs in 2024. So obviously it's been a very effective play for them. They do it better than anybody else. They're the Super Bowl winners. So I'm sure they don't want the tush push to go away. Hold on a second here. Sirianni says, we coach it, and it's an exciting play. I'm not sure how exciting it is. I don't really see a whole lot of excitement out of the tush push, but it's effective, and they use it better than anybody else. They're the Super Bowl winners. They want it to continue with it. The Green Bay Packers are sour grapes. We'll see what happens in May.
Well, I would say that the Chiefs look pretty happy when they stop the Bills over and over and over again.
Well, the Bills don't run it as well as the Eagles do.
Correct, but they're the only other team that ran this tush push more
they
than
had
5
pretty good
times
success.
last year.
They had pretty good success with it, though.
Not when it mattered the most, because they did the exact same thing.
They blew it. Yeah, well, they always blow it in the playoffs.
I'll also say this. It's not like this play where it's just this cheat code you run over and over and over and over and over again, because if you take a look at all the plays, there were 35,415 total plays last year. The tush push accounted for 0.28% of all plays, or a total of 101. So it's not like this thing that you run over and over and over and over again to get the whole length of the football field. No, it's a glorified QB sneak. Which, if you just take a look at the percentages of QB sneaks, by the way, if you actually look at the numbers of the QB sneaks from last year, I'm pretty sure teams converted on 91%. Here we go. League-wide last year, 69 QB sneaks on 4th and 1, which includes tush pushes and regular quarterback sneaks. 91% were converted for first downs. It's a glorified QB sneak. Mm-hmm. So
I think they ought to.
If you want to appeal a potential ban, I would say, you know what, just have the defenders push as well.
Uh-huh.
Or get a 400-pound guy in the middle of the nose tackle to just stomp on the offensive center, and then you can finally gain leverage and push him back.
I think what they should do is keep it, right? and then modify it and bring in a little tiny guy to be the quarterback and have two great big guys in the backfield. When the ball is snapped, they pick the guy up and throw him. They throw him high and throw him far, throw him for about 7 yards, and then they'll get the first down that way, right? Have a little tiny guy.
Kill a guy in the process.
Pick him up and throw him. You know, that would be, it would be like a forward pass, only the guy that doesn't throw it, he has the ball the whole time. That'd be a creative play, Nate. Maybe we'll see that next year.
Let's get to our next topic.
Okay, now let's move into our fourth topic. While speaking with reporters at the NFL owners' meetings on Monday, the Colts head coach Shane Steichen spoke about the quarterback competition between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. We have a quote here. He said, it'll start in the spring. They're going to split the starting reps through spring practice and going into training camp. Really, it's going to come down to who's the most consistent and who's the most productive. He will be the starter. There'll be a good competition between Jones and Richardson. So, who will be the week 1 starter for the Colts, Nate? That's what it all comes down to. Who's it going to be?
I've said this now for months. In fact, I've probably said it for over a year. Anthony Richardson, as it currently stands, is not an effective starting quarterback in the NFL. And I think when the GM Chris Ballard said that they want to have an open competition between Richardson and a veteran quarterback, I said it could be Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones. It doesn't matter. He's going to lose because he can't complete a pass. And we take a look at Steichen's quote again. Let's bring it up. We talk about consistency. We talk about come down to who's the most productive. Well, in terms of production, if you like high-flying Madden plays that happen every other throw maybe, or hell, only 58% of the time he even completes a pass, well, then you go with Anthony Richardson. But if you want a guy who can complete more than 58% of his throws, well, then you're looking at Daniel Jones, because during his time with the New York Giants, when they won that playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings, that entire 2022 season, it was effectiveness from Daniel Jones, efficiency from Daniel Jones, and help with the running game with Saquon Barkley. And what do the Colts have currently? Well, they have Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. So the quarterback situation, let's just say for this argument, Daniel Jones wins. Well, let's take a look at some of the things that Daniel Jones didn't have or had with the Giants in 2022 versus what the Colts have currently. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. So effective running games. You could say that both those running backs are very, very effective at what they do, which should obviously help Daniel Jones a lot. You could argue that Daniel Jones on the Colts has more help than he did, at least when it comes to wide receivers and tight ends, than he did with the New York Giants back in 2022. I think Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, those are all Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce had the most yards per catch last year. You know why? Because all of his catches were 20-yard bombs from Anthony Richardson. So I think you have a deep ball guy, Josh Downs, who's a very effective wide receiver. Michael Pittman, as long as he stays healthy, could be a nice piece. And then A.D. Mitchell could be productive. I think right now 4 weapons for Daniel Jones is looking pretty damn good. Meanwhile, Anthony Richardson with those weapons, turns out he can barely complete a pass. So if we're talking strictly on production and consistency, that is Daniel Jones. Because when he actually had some time in the pocket, when he had a weapon at least in the backfield, because you could argue he didn't really have weapons out wide, when he had a level of competency offensively, well, made him a playoff team. The defense ended up beating Lamar Jackson at one point, which at the time was his only NFC loss. Until this season, actually, with Jalen Hurts beating him in the regular season. So I think when it comes down to it, I think Daniel Jones will be the starter. I think that he'll earn it actually pretty quickly in training camp, in the OTAs and whatnot. I think that it won't be much of a competition, because if we're just taking a look at the brass tacks of it all, what can Daniel Jones do, and what does Anthony Richardson struggle with? Completing passes. You could design the best play possible. Shane Steichen can draw up the absolute perfect play, a cheat code play in the NFL. But if Anthony Richardson can't get it to the guy, if he can't be accurate with the football and throw it on time and complete a pass, then that play goes to waste. I think Daniel Jones, with some time, with a weapon, with an effective running game, could be decent. Now, when it's all said and done, will the Colts be a Super Bowl contender? No. Will they be a serious AFC contender? No. Will they maybe cause some trouble with the Houston Texans, who currently don't have a stable offensive line or efficient running game? Yeah, I think you can cause some trouble. But the AFC South is the worst division in football. So I don't know how much that really says about, where the Colts are going. But are they a serious AFC threat? No. Are they a Super Bowl contender? No. Can Daniel Jones win the job and I think win it pretty easily? I can't believe I'm the one saying this. But yes, I do think Daniel Jones relatively easily could beat out Anthony Richardson for the Colts starting quarterback job.
I tend to agree with you. I think this is a very smart move by the Colts, not just because they're putting this competition out there between the two quarterbacks, and I do think they won't say who the starter is right up until the end of the preseason, because this has got interest. People are interested in it. It's a marketing thing for them. But for a team the Colts, nobody talks about the Colts. Who talks about them? No one, right? The last 3-4 seasons, and since Andrew Luck has left them, you don't hear much about the Colts because they haven't been very good, right? I think they have a decent coach. I do think that Steichen is a good coach. He's gotten a lot of mileage out of it and was in playoff contention with a very poor quarterback play this past season. If he could just get decent quarterback play, he might be a playoff contender, but nobody talks about the Colts. So to have this competition, everybody's going to be watching every play. They're going to be analyzing it. It's going to be something that's talked about all the way up until the beginning of the season. So I don't think they'll name a starting quarterback until right up until the beginning of the season. But I think it will become pretty clear who the starting quarterback is going to be, because I agree with you. Anthony Richardson is not ready to be the starting quarterback. And as I said earlier the year when he was being criticized and they were getting impatient with him, he was still a rookie because he only played 4 games in his first year before he got hurt and had to sit out the rest of the season. So this was kind of his first season, a little bit extended. And it showed. I mean, he did not play well, but he didn't help his case at all by saying, you know what, I'm too tired to be out there. I mean, that to me, I can't believe. I don't think anybody's ever said that. And that was something that really rubbed the Colts the wrong way, and rightfully so. So, I think Richardson won't have a leg up on the competition in this competition with Daniel Jones. They're going to split the reps. Ballard, the GM, said that they would bring in real competition for Richardson, who had struggled to stay healthy and has been inconsistent when he played. Familiarity with the offense should give Richardson an edge, but I think it will come down to the execution and production at each phase before Steichen selects a starter. I think it makes sense for a true competition to last throughout the training camp and through the preseason, not only because it gives each quarterback a fair opportunity, but also because it's being very well followed by all fans and other NFL teams. I think we'll hear a lot about it throughout the preseason. We'll be talking about it for sure. Jones had a disappointing 2024 season leading to his mid-year release. Richardson, the 4th overall pick 2 years ago, has struggled to meet expectations. Jones is on a 1-year deal, so it's a make-or-break season for him. Richardson Richardson emerge as a franchise quarterback? That's a big question mark here. Can Jones reignite his career and regain the starting status? It's a pivotal moment for both players to redefine their trajectories and impact the Colts' future direction.
Well, let's bring out some numbers, because I could talk about, he can't complete a pass. Or, I could say that all day and every day, and it's true. But let's talk about the history of the NFL, because there is some data out there that backs up my claim. So Anthony Richardson is 305th out of 372 quarterbacks in completion percentage for players who started 2+ seasons and have at least 15 starts. 305th out of 372. Not a great example of good quarterback play. What about just last year? Let's narrow it down a little bit. So last year's 47.7% completion percentage is ranked 207th out of 221 players who've played 2 years and have at least 11 starts in a singular season.
Yeah.
So
it's bad. It's
very bad. And in fact, he's already missed a full season of games due to injury. And also for sitting out and being benched.
Yeah.
So he's played, 15 games in his career out of, 32, I think, or something like that? I mean, we're calling this guy a starting quarterback in the NFL. No, yeah, he was a
Okay,
raw
well,
quarterback
you know
in a
what?
project. I can understand
On
that.
the Colts, I
But-
would say when they drafted him, they said, we understand he hasn't played that much football. It's like a Trey Lance situation. He hasn't
Exactly.
played that much football.
He's played more than
We're
Trey Lance,
going to be patient. We're going to be patient. Okay, well, he played the first 4 games, got hurt, was out the rest of the season. They were patient then. He started the second year, played most of the season, got benched once, came back in, played a little bit better. And they're still unhappy, and now they've lost their patience, and they're bringing in the competition for him. So they weren't very patient. You know, maybe he's a type of quarterback like Geno Smith. You know, it takes him a while to get going, and later in his career he'll be better. But right now he's been lousy. The Colts aren't willing to be patient, so they're going this route.
The issue with that Geno Smith or even the Sam Darnold, or you take a look at other quarterbacks, the Baker Mayfields of the world, where they find success in other places, is they were at least somewhat accurate. They weren't completing all their passes, but you could take a look at the situations and look at, well, the Jets were an abomination with Adam Gase as their head coach, who was probably there for 2 years too long. So that's an issue. And also the rosters were terrible. When it came to quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, the lights were a little bit too bright. He was in commercials. He wasn't focusing. OBJ's dad was telling him to force feed OBJ consistently. That was a big thing. There was controversy there. When it comes to Richardson, his roster doesn't suck. He has weapons around him. He has a very good running back. He has a couple of very good wideouts. So it's nothing like that. He just can't complete a pass. That's the issue. And on top of that, his athleticism is a massive plus. If he was a pocket passer putting up these numbers, there would not be a competition. They'd be bringing in someone to replace him.
Yeah.
That's what that is. If he had minimal mobility and minimal athleticism and was a pocket passer, the Daniel Jones move, or hell, Aaron Rodgers might be a part of this conversation. Kirk Cousins might have been here instead. Russell Wilson may have gone here. But if he had little to no mobility, there would not be, okay, we're going to have a competition. Here is your replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Sit behind him and learn.
Yeah.
But because he has his mobility, that's the plus he has. There's one issue with that, moving on to greener pastures. That mobility is a curve. It's going to fall off. You're not going to be able to keep your mobility in 7-8 years at the same level you are now, on top of the fact that your injuries came from you running out of the pocket, coming from you being mobile and being a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, I have another thought here.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart move by Daniel Jones to take on this competition. Where else would he have the opportunity to really be the starter?
The Vikings, but it wouldn't be a
the
legitimate
Vikings.
shot.
It wouldn't be a legitimate thing really for him. They would be looking immediately to move him as a bridge quarterback and
Correct.
bring McCarthy in. So he saw that. He made the right move, and I think if he does do well, and he does get the starting job, and the Colts play well, what does it say about the Giants? What does it say about the coaching that he had there when he was with the Giants? It will say they blew it.
Well,
and they did. They have blown it in a number of different areas. So with the Saquon Barkley, they blew it. They blew it with the contract situation with Daniel Jones. They should have given him the franchise tag and given the contract to Barkley, and they'd still have him. And who knows? They might have played better. They might have won a few more games with Barkley running the ball back there. Look what he did last year. He gained the most yards in NFL history over the whole season.
Yeah.
So the Giants could be exposed here if Daniel Jones winds up being a serviceable quarterback who can lead the Colts to at least playoff contention.
I'll say the Daniel Jones and the Giants thing, some of it was very self-inflicted. I mean, we opened up the season, he couldn't see the field. I mean, that first game against Minnesota, I don't know if I had the clip when we covered week 1, when we covered this game, but Wan'Dale Robinson was open. Malik Neighbors was open at times. He just couldn't see the field. And in preseason, he threw 2 picks to the Houston Texans. I mean, it was just ugly, ugly play. And they did pay him. They didn't screw. They did pay him. It's just he was the wrong guy to get paid.
Yeah.
So that's on Joe Shane. That's on.
We'll see a
general
new
manager
offense,
mispractice.
a different coach who Steichen I think is a very good coach.
I agree.
We'll see if Daniel Jones flourishes in this offense and with the Colts. It will have will say something bad about the Giants to me.
Well, here's my question: what's good? If you said if Daniel Jones plays well, define
didn't they
well.
win? They won 8 games last year. They won 8 games with Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco. Who I was surprised didn't really step up. He could have kept the starting job.
But a number of those games were very much on the back of Jonathan Taylor barreling through guys.
Yeah.
So again, define good.
All he's got to do, I would say, 2 more wins, right? Get to 10 wins.
So not numbers-wise, but more so just putting wins up on the board.
Sure, that's what it's all about in the NFL, is whether you win or lose. You got to get to the playoffs. If they won 10 games, they probably have a shot at getting in. So that's 2 more games with a quarterback who I do think is better than Richardson. I think all he has to do is manage the game. He doesn't have to do anything too dramatic. He's a dink and dunker. Whether they adopt that for him, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Richardson's the opposite of that.
Just the opposite. So I don't know what they're going to do there. I think the dink and dunk would be a better move for them because they have the great running back. So we'll see.
Give me Daniel Jones. Starter, Colts,
That's so amazing to hear you say that.
I know.
That's just what the NFL is like. You never know what's going to happen.
All right, but
you never know.
That's the thing. I can say Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback, but then you say, hey, compare him to Anthony Richardson. I'm like, well, he's better than that.
Yeah.
He's better than Anthony Richardson, so hell, he's a good quarterback.
What do you think the Colts' record will be next year if Daniel Jones is the starter the whole year?
Let's take a look at the strength of schedule here. Let's see how. So they have a relatively easy schedule, the 25th hardest in the NFL.
Okay.
They play 8 teams with a winning record in 2024, and they play seven playoff teams. Well, I don't have it up. Yeah, give me a second here. So the Colts for 2025, they play. Let's bring it up, just because I'm assuming that you're gonna do this list.
Yeah.
At Houston,
loss.
Versus Houston.
Wait.
So home against Houston.
Home again, the first game of the season.
The schedule's not out. These are just the opponents.
Okay, yeah.
Schedule's not out. Schedule comes out in May. So at Houston's a loss versus Houston. So at home against Houston.
I think they'll split with them. No, I think they'll lose both of them.
Okay. Versus Jacksonville.
They'll win.
Versus Tennessee.
Win.
Versus Denver.
Loss.
Versus the Raiders.
Win.
Versus the Cardinals.
Win.
Versus the 49ers.
Loss.
Versus the Dolphins.
Win.
You got them at 5-4 right now. Versus the Falcons.
Win.
You have no faith in Michael Penix. At Jacksonville.
Win.
My God. At Chiefs.
Loss.
At Chargers.
Loss.
At Rams.
A loss.
At Steelers.
Loss.
At Seahawks.
I'd say a win.
And then finally at Titans.
Win.
Have him going 9-8.
9-8. Well,
so he wins one more game.
Okay, so who are the ones I had losses to?
I didn't write down.
Oh, you didn't write them down.
The Texans, you have them sweeping.
Maybe they split with the Texans, and that gives the 10 wins at home.
Actually, no, that wouldn't be surprising. That wouldn't be surprising. I just expect Houston to be better. Tank Dell's dealing with his shattered kneecap.
Their wide receiver, they don't have Stephon Diggs coming back.
That's
they
true.
Don't have Tank Dell, was hurt badly. Did they have anyone to protect Collins? No. So that could be a problem for them.
That's interesting. All right, we'll see. 9-8 you have right now, which is a win better than they had last year. But if you say the split with the Houston Texans, 10-7 with
Daniel Jones starting.
Now here's my question: does that change with Richardson starting? I don't want to go through the whole schedule again.
Yeah, I don't think they get to 10 wins.
So what? Could this be?
I think they'd be back maybe 8-9 like they were last year. Something like that. It's a 2-win swing, I think.
Very interesting. All right, that does wrap up today's show of the Harvey Hour. We thank you for the constant support as always. We'll be back on Friday. The mock drafts are next Tuesday. Part 1, I should say. The first 10 picks of the mock draft. That's going to be on Tuesday. Both of us are going to give our top 10 picks for the 2025 NFL Draft. But Friday, we also have a great show, so stay tuned for that. There's some Kirk Cousins news out there that I want to talk about. It's developing over time, especially after Jimmy Haslam's quotes. But yeah, we'll see you on Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.